Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvijavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda Gurupadambu Janmane Savikara Maham Savilasa Mahamohagrahagra Saika Karmane. So from 17 we will chant Īśena yatyapyetani Nirmitani swarupataha Tathapi jnana karmabhyam Jivo karshit tadannatam Īśa karyam jiva bhogyam Jagat Dvabhyam samanvitam Pitrujanya bhartrabhogya Yatha yoshit tatheshyatam Maya vrityatmako hisha Sankalpas sadhanam janau Mano vrityatmako jiva sankalpo bhoga sadhanam. Very interesting. Yeah. So, just to summarize what we have been looking at, very important section because it is going to segue. Segue means going to lead us from Īśvara sṛṣṭi to jīva sṛṣṭi, and we have seen in detail Īśvara sṛṣṭi, and now we are going to see in detail what this jīva sṛṣṭi is. And so this portion that talks about the Jiva and Īśvara, what is that? At the buffet. How else to describe it? Because for the Jiva, everything is a buffet. Everything is grab. I want to have. I need. I want. It is mine. Then that is not yet mine, and what is not yet mine has to be made into mine. This is what it is. And not only is there a tussle, amongst various jivas to get most of the, what is it called, the sṛṣṭi, Īśvara sṛṣṭi for their own personal use, and there is also a tussle between, in the individual jiva, with Īśvara, except Īśvara is not participating in the tussle. Yeah. Īśvara is not participating in the tussle, but the jiva who feels slighted and who feels I don't have enough blames Īśvara for the inability to convert everything into objects of consumption. So, bhoga vastu, you cannot talk about it as objects of enjoyment. Bhoga is often translated as enjoyment. There is nothing to enjoy here, because everything that causes joy immediately causes sorrow in the process of converting this Īśvara sṛṣṭi. And so therefore what? So therefore, the verse number 17 says, Īśena yatyapi etani means what? All these 7 forms of quote-unquote consumption, enjoyment, etc. Īśena yatyapi etani nirmitani, even though they have been created, projected by Īśvara, swarupataha, meaning in the form of how it is supposed to be, according to their nature, although these are produced by Īśvara alone, then tathapi, even though, then jnana karmabhyam, so with the help of jnana, prayers and meditation and supplication and surrender to that very Īśvara, and karmabhyam, and through various other forms of action, acting upon the sṛṣṭi, mentally and physically, the jīva converts Īśvara's projection, Īśvara's projected universe into annata. Annata means the status of being annam. Annam here, not to be confused with food. Literally, annam means what? Objects of, consumption. So, there is a kind of a interesting segue into this whole section in this verse, in this stanza. Very nice. So what Vidyaranya Swamiji is trying to tell us is that there is an objective projection of the universe by Īśvara. And why is it objective? Because Īśvara is unafflicted. Īśvara washes off the hands of the creation, so to speak, from trying to micromanage it and tweak it according to Īśvara's own needs. That thing is not there. That's why it's an objective, creation or projection. Why? Because there is no agenda that I have to milk something out of the creation. That agenda is not there.
So, there is a very important way in which verse number 17 is bringing us to look at a crucial thing. One is that yadyapi īśena nirmitani swarupatah tathapi jnana karmabhyam jīvaha akarshīt tad annatam. So there is there is an objective projection of the universe, which is for which Īśvara is responsible. We have seen that in detail, how the created is not separate from the creator, and the so-called creation is more of a manifestation of that Satchidanandam Brahman alone. That Brahman alone is manifest as the universe, and the universe is dependent upon that Brahman. It is mithya. It is a mithya bhutam jagat, and this mithya bhutam jagat is is relying upon that satyam jnanam anantam vastu called Brahman, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, means that consciousness alone is projecting this universe, upholding this universe, taking back this universe. So the universe has a very iffy connection with which, because it is relying on that consciousness, on which is called, Īśvara's sankalpa or will here. Because when we talk about it from the standpoint of Jagat, then, Īśvaratvam is born, because when the Jagat is there, then there is the creator-creator relationship, and all this is there. And so, this we have seen. So the universe is utterly 100% objective, because Īśvara doesn't want to milk out of the universe any agenda. Even though I joke about this, the Jagat is not a TV show for Īśvara's entertainment. I joke about this sometimes. That's why Bhagavan doesn't need cable TV, because all the jivas are there and each jiva is a reality show. I joke about it sometimes, but that is not correct. That is not real. It's just I'm just kidding. And so, therefore, Īśvara washes off the hands of trying to micromanage the Jagat, and the jiva has some free will, and in the human body, the jiva endowed with the human body has a complete manifestation of consciousness, fully, purnaha, full enough to make a judgment upon itself, upon the Jagat, and upon the Jagat that it objectifies, and upon other jivas, and upon Īśvara. It's free enough to judge itself. And in the light of its judgment, the judgment is never positive except for 5 minutes. So there is always a negative adhyasa over the Jagat, over the Īśvara, and over other jivas, over itself. Why is there always a negative projection? Projection here is adhyasa. Because of what is what is jivatvam? Jivatvam, jivaness is characterized by ajnanam. And so when the ajnanam is predominant, so agrahanam, not grasping the vastu, not grasping its own nature, not grasping the fact that this whole Jagat is a projection and I am not the projected, I am, I am nothing but that Satchidananda, I am one with the projector, it doesn't know. And if it doesn't know that, it quickly comes to the wrong conclusion, because if you don't know the rope, you can mistake it for the snake. If you don't know that this is a stump of a tree and and the tree looks like this, you think it's a person. Purushaha eva sthanuhu. So this, or sthanureva purushaha. So when you look at the stump of the tree, then you mistake it for a person in the dark. And then you shine the light and see that it is a harmless stump of a tree. It's not some kind of a gargoyle waiting for you. So, agrahanam leads to anyatha grahanam. This much we have to understand. Agrahanam, vastunaha agrahanam. Vastu here means reality. Not understanding the reality, and here paramarthika vastunaha agrahanam, not understanding the paramarthika. We have seen those terms, so I'm not going to write them down again. Paramarthika means the absolute reality of everything being a projection of this consciousness, including, jivatvam and Īśvaratvam are statuses of being Īśvara and jīva. Those statuses are also superimposed upon that very consciousness, just like in that, in the ocean there is a big wave called tsunami and a small wave, called a little ripple, not even worth being called a wave, a small little wave. And the small wave, endowed with a human mind, comes to the conclusion, oh, I am not this, I am just a small wave. All the bigger waves are out to get me, and the one that I have to be the most worried about is Īśvara. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Namaste Rudramanyava Utota Ishave Namaha. Oh, Namaha to this wave, Namaha to all the various fronts and everything of this wave. Oh Lord, don't direct your arrows of karma and karma phala upon me. Bless me, save me. This is what? The small wave. And the wave needs a guru to wave at this wave and say, what are you doing? Why are you so miserable? You are not the wave. That is not your reality. That's just a little, that's just a little blip here. That's just a little manifestation. The truth of you is water. The truth of that big wave that you call, that is endowed with Īśvaratva is also water. And when this is understood, then even though the differences may prevail, we are not trying to remove the differences. The differences are there, but they are sublated. Sublated in Sanskrit means badhita. They are as though they don't matter. They don't matter. That is the whole idea. They don't matter because I know my reality. It's like that. It's like that fellow. The story that is told is this fellow had a complex. So what? Every fellow has a complex. No. This fellow had a complex within a complex. What was the complex? He, had a strange disease, a mental disorder where he thought he was a cat. And much to the horror of his wife and children, he would only meow. And when he was happy, he would purr. And then what would he do? He insisted on lapping his milk from a dish, on the floor. And he would walk on all fours. Of course, naturally the family was very alarmed. And then when they heard that a very world famous psychiatrist is coming to town to give some lectures and do some consultations. The wife, took the husband to see this doctor. And then the doctor saw the husband and, said, okay, I think I can help. I think I can definitely help. Can you please leave him with me alone? She said, okay. She waited in the living room and in the waiting room of the office. And then, the doctor took the man who thought he was a cat in the office and then explained to him, you know what? You are a human being. You're not a cat. No, I'm a cat. No, you're a human being. Look. And then he got his own pet cat brought. And then he said, see, this is a cat. You don't look like that. And he showed him the mirror. You're a human being. You look like me. Oh, okay. Thank you, doctor. And then lo and behold, after some counseling, the man was cured, so to speak. And the wife was overjoyed to see the husband emerge from the doctor's office, not on all fours, but walking normally walking. She was thrilled. She was so happy. She gave the doctor a hug, and then said, thank you. And then the doctor said, and then she was little worried, what if there is a relapse? The doctor said, yeah, it might happen, don't worry. I will talk to him. And you just, here's my phone number, call. If there is a relapse, call. So then everything was all right, except he saw, the wife saw that he was not rejoining his work. He was in fact not even going out of the house. So 3 days went like that. He was normal at home, but he was not going out of the house. And when she would tell, he would say, no, I'm not going out. And then, she called the doctor. The doctor said, okay, he's not going out of the house. That's strange. Put him on. Let me talk to him. So, what are you? He asked over the phone. Well, doctor, I'm not a cat. I'm a human being. Very good, said the doctor. Now, I just don't understand then, why are you not going out of the house? Don't you know that you're a human being? Doctor, said the man, I know I'm a human being, but all those street dogs out there, they may not know I'm a human being. They may think I'm a cat and attack me. That's why I'm not going out. This is the jīva's sṛṣṭi. What will somebody else think? And then, so therefore what? So therefore this whole, this projection is, there is something called a subjective projection. This is what Swami Vidyaranya wants to talk about and wants to introduce in a very unique way and a subtle way, so that we are able to understand this. And so he says that the Īśvara's sṛṣṭi is an objective sṛṣṭi, but the jīva keeps acting upon that sṛṣṭi and quote unquote converting it into its own object of enjoyment within quotes. Actually, why bhoga is translated as enjoyment is because the intention behind it is to enjoy. But then it leads to sorrow. Just like the wave that is afraid of the tsunami, thinking itself separate. And so the guru wave has to counsel the little wave and say, you are water. That tsunami wave is also water. And from that standpoint, the differences are, you don't have to wipe out the differences. You have to Īśvarize the differences at first, and then you have to see the differences as, as non-separate from you. The differences are non-separate from you. How are they non-separate from me? Just like the text called Advaita Makaranda says, Mayye vodeti chidvyomni Jagat gandharva pattanam atoham nakatham brahma sarvajñam sarvakaranam. Mayi eva, in me alone. And what is this me? Body? No. Mind? No. Senses? No. Complexes? No. In me, Chid Vyomani, in this vast space of consciousness, in this limitless quote-unquote space, that is consciousness. Mayeva udeti, Mayi eva udeti, in me alone, in this consciousness, which is me, which I have reclaimed to be myself, in this space of consciousness called I, in this me rises udeti. What? Jagat. So the Jagat rises in me, like even the clouds in the sky that take on various shapes and forms, like rabbit, dog, cat, human being, somebody carrying a basket. This is all the cloud castles in the air, we say. So this is like a Jagat Gandharva Pattanam. This is like a celestial city made up of clouds. Ataha aham na katham brahma. So therefore, how can I not be Brahman? Tell me that. Sarvajñam, which is all knowledge, which is nothing but knowledge. And this knowledge which transcends the knower, known and means of knowledge divide. There is no division in this knowledge. Undivided, indivisible, all-knowingness, and that knowingness is, resting in that being. The all knowledge cannot just be floating around. It has to rest in a conscious being, and that conscious being is nothing but consciousness, and that consciousness is all knowledge. Knower is yet to come, known is yet to come. That object-subject difference and that which sustains the object-subject difference, the status of the knower that is operating the means of knowledge, all these are absent in this understanding that all this is me alone. So therefore I am Brahman, I am Īśvara, Sarvajñam, all knowledge, Sarvakaranam, the cause of every division is the indivisible me. Very beautiful. And so that is what is, Atmajnanam. And this jīva is far from that, not by space or time, but because of ignorance. And because of this ignorance, what does the jīva do? The jīva has a complex, has a huge, what is that, a galaxy-sized complex. I am not enough. And so if one thinks I am not enough, what is one going to do? Try to become enough through action, because that's the only thing that is there. But action and knowledge, I have told you, like oil and water, they never mix. Because what the jīva is after is that which is uncreated, unproduced. Not knowing that it is only trying to milk something out of this so-called creation, which doesn't even have a leg to stand on, which is like Jagat Gandha, which is like the Jagat which is Gandharva Pattanam. Gandharva Pattanam means what? An imaginary city made up of clouds, etc. So, therefore, just like you see some shapes, and you can, if you are sitting in the plane without a book to read, and then you can just look out of the window, you can entertain yourself. You can even see, once I saw, it looked like, some flames and people sitting around a yajna. And with using your imagination, you can see that they're offering cloudy ghee into the cloud fire, and the cloud people. You can have so much fun. So like this, this is what it is if you don't understand. Then you say, oh, I'm running out of ghee, I have to go buy ghee. Then this is what happens. So if one doesn't know one is Satchidanandam Brahma, which is the cause of the Jagat, one is not in touch with oneself as Īśvara, then, the Jagat becomes, the Jagat becomes what? Mithya, which is, the Jagat becomes Sat. Because when Sat is not known, Mithya becomes Sat. Mithya doesn't mean false. It means a dependent reality. So this dependent reality becomes Sadvastu. And if the Jagat becomes real, then everything becomes real. the annoying neighbor becomes real, and all the people out to get the person become real. Oh, I have to get this, I don't have this. That right in the beginning, that complex becomes real. I have to get this, I don't have this, I have to make this, I have to go for this. Oh, I'm still not satisfied. There is a rat race, there is this, there is that, there is all these things have to become real. Ayyo, what do you go, how to, this is, I have to get what is real. And what is real is what? The real thing. What is that? Coca-Cola, that's all you can say. Because the real thing is not understood, everything that is not real and not ultimately real becomes real. And this is how the jiva's relationship to the Jagat is what? Is one of, worshipping names and forms. Taking them to be real means I rely on them for my happiness, for my satisfaction and my content. And so I try to get things out of them. So each name and form becomes an object of frenetic pursuit, feverish pursuit. And so this feverish pursuit, lands one in hot water all the time. Lands one in hot water because the moment you get it, it is elusive, it self-destructs, or it gets destroyed by, the 5 elements. Fire damage, water damage. I mean, you can see in California last year, whole cities were destroyed, whole towns were destroyed because of fire. And then some other places, North Carolina, etc., and so many places, tornado damage, water damage. The 5 elements are always there, and and there are other sources of destruction as well. And so when one falls in love with the name and form, as the truth of oneself, as the real thing, then one is always ending up, empty-handed and disappointed. So the jiva doesn't realize this, and the jiva acts upon the universe from that Brahma. Brahma means wrong conclusion, delusion. And then acting upon the universe produces a few things on its own, meaning distorts the universe to objects of consumption and transforms the universe through its prayer. And the prayer produces what is called adrishta, invisible, results which are given to the jiva to lead a comfortable life. And then it modifies the Jagat through action, the jiva, and then the action also, physical action, also leads to certain results which are either favorable or unfavorable. So this is what is called jnana karma bhyam. So jnana means mental action such as prayer, etc. And then karma is physicalized action, such as, even it could be physicalized prayer, but here since prayer is already there, meditation is already there, and action here means, actually physical action of acting upon the universe. So now we have this paramarthikam sat. So we have this paramarthika, and then this paramarthika projects the Vyāvahārika, the everyday reality, the objective reality is called Vyāvahārikam Jagat. And then the what is that? Then the jiva does not relate to the Vyāvahārika objectively, and the subjective spin that is given to the Vyāvahārika is called pratibhāsika, the jiva's mental framework, and that is described in the in verse number 18. Īśakaryam jiva bhogyam. Īśakaryam means this Īśvara's universe, the product, so to speak, the projection of Īśvara as the Jagat, therefore is converted constantly by the jiva into objects of comfort, consumption, satisfaction, etc. And therefore this Jagat is split into two, or the Jagat comprises of two things: objective projection and subjective understanding. dvabhyam samanvitam. So you see there is a very interesting, difference here. So the Īśvara is looking upon the Jagat objectively. It's just a projection. It's a custom-made Jagat ordered to fulfill the jivas, karmas, etc. We can say that on the Vyāvahārika level. On the Paramarthika level, there is even this projection is challenged. What projection? Where is it? If the projection relies on Īśvara, can it even be considered real? All that is real is Satchidanandam Brahma. The projection comes and goes like even your dream. So, but the jiva, not understanding it, makes it into a subjective reality. And what is the ingredient of this subjective reality? The main ingredient of subjective reality of the jiva, making this Jagat into what is that? Pratibhasika. Pratibhasika means a subjective reality. The main ingredient is ajnanam, not understanding the truth of itself, and so the Jagat is transformed into something that is Paramarthikam, which is not. And therefore the jiva grieves. And then so here the example, it's an example that is a timed example, an obsolete example, because writing in the 13th century, and if you look at the gender relations and the patriarchal nature of the whole world, how it was in the 13th century, you can understand. So the example that is given is that Pitrujanya. So the parents raise the daughter very objectively, and in fact they raise her to be a well-adjusted wife. Yeah, that is how the parents used to raise the daughter. Not just in India, even though this is an Indian example, in every part of the world it was like that. Except in few pockets where they had a matrilineal, matriarchy and matrilineal, way, customs. That was there in few pockets of the world, but the rest of the places, it was a patriarchal society, not a matriarchal society. And so therefore what? The daughter was seen as, as belonging to the family of where she was going to get married. And so there was a certain kind of an objectivity with regard to the daughter, because with regard to the son, the parents would say, oh, this is our own child, the daughter is being raised for someone else. That is what the example here. It's obsolete, but that is what the Swami Vidyaranya wants us to see, to get past our own what is that, rankling at this obsolete example, and to just see what is being talked about. So with regard to the daughter, the parents were very objective in the sense that there was not that kind of a delusional attachment to the daughter. So there was not that expectation that she will take care of them, that she should be exactly how they want her to be, because they would know that she's going to go away to her own, marital home. And so they would raise her in an objective way, whereas with the son, they were very attached to the son. Oh, this is our future, we are going to rely on him, he's going to do our, ceremony, funeral ceremony. And then because devoid of a funeral ceremony, nobody can go to heaven, etc. That is the belief in the Hindu thing. So we need a funeral ceremony, and the son will do that. He is our staff, our stick with which we will walk in the old age. All these expectations are put upon the son, and the son is pressured to take care of them. With the daughter there is no pressure. That is the idea. So Pitrujanya, meaning, the daughter is definitely created, so to speak, brought to the world by the parents, but in an objective way, just like Īśvara doesn't lean upon the Jagat. In fact, the Jagat leans upon Īśvara, just like even with the daughter, the parents are objective, They allow her to be who she is, rather than saying, you have to take care of us, you have to do this for us. That kind of Brahma is not there. That kind of a pressure of wanting something from the daughter is not there. She's just loved for who she is, just like Īśvara just loves the Jagat because the Jagat is an extension of himself, herself. There is no pressure for the Jagat to make Īśvara happy. And then the same daughter is married into another family. Does the same objectivity continue? No. The first day itself the mother-in-law tells, oh, you better learn the ways of our household, because how you act will, reflect on the whole family. You have to, take this reputation of this household and make it bigger. You have to be the Lakshmi of this household, Griha Lakshmi, and so you have to act in certain ways. You cannot do this. This is not our way. And the husband says, oh, how you act reflects upon me, so you better get your act together. This is how we do. That objectivity is not there. So the paternal, maternal, natal home of the daughter here is Īśvara's Jagat. Correct? And the daughter here is equal to the vastus in the daughter is Jagat itself. All the vastus in the Jagat, the whole Jagat is the daughter. Duhita, daughter is the vastu, and that daughter is then transformed, acted upon by what? By the jivas, and the jivas here are the people in the marital home. Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, what else? Mother-in-law, father-in-law, husband, bridegroom, all these things, and later on the children. They will all have some subjective claims and want to mold the new bride into their ways because of the patriarchal, ways of being. And so the people in the marital home are equal to the jivas who are acting upon the Jagat. The Jagat is the daughter herself, and the natal home, the mother and father of the daughter, are what? Are like Īśvara. They don't have any expectation. They just love her for who she is, because she's going to go to a different house. And so they don't have any pressure. They don't want anything out of her. That is the example. Okay. And then verse number 19, is going to sum up everything that we have studied in a very, very interesting way. And is going to sum it up succinctly and beautifully, because this is just how to put it all in one verse. We have to learn from Swami Vidyaranya. So to conclude, he says, Maya vrityatmakaha sankalpaha he indeed janau sadhanam. Janihi means the Jagat. Janihi, janau. So for the Jagat, sadhanam, the cause, the seed. Sadhanam here means the seed, the aid to this Jagat. The seed of this Jagat is what? Isha Sankalpa. Īśvara's intentionality becomes the seed of the Jagat. We have seen this, and that Sankalpa, what about this Sankalpa is different? We have seen that in detail. And what is this Sankalpa? This Sankalpa is, is nothing but Maya. Maya here means knowledge. So the Sankalpa here is knowledge, and that knowledge, with the help of Maya Shakti, which is the power of the Lord, is the cause of the Jagat. Okay? Now, then the Jagat we saw is consumed into what? Into a personal buffet by the jiva. So how does that take place? So that that transformation of the objective Jagat into a subjective, pressure-filled, ragadvesha fulfillable Jagat, or objects of consumption. How does that transformation take place? Because of manovritti. Manovrityatmakam. What is this manovritti? Simply by the modifications of the mind. So the raga dvesha powered mind, which is powerful enough to transform the objective jagat into the subjective objects of consumption. This is the jiva's sankalpa. So now we are very interestingly introduced to the two sankalpas, and that's why we spent earlier a lot of time groundwork. We laid the groundwork by talking about the differences in the sankalpas. Īśvara's sankalpa and jiva's sankalpa. We had talked about the differences. The question now is, who remembers, so that we can sum it up here. So help me remember, remind me and tell me what are the differences between Īśvara's sankalpa, intention with regard to the Jagat or with regard to making of the Jagat, and Jiva's sankalpa. What are the differences? Yes. So first of all, we'll take what Sujal Bhai said first. Īśvara's sankalpa is spontaneous. It is not kind of, a machination of all kinds of, some kind of a, like, oh, I want to get this, I have to do this. It is spontaneous. And it is objective, devoid of ragadvesha. Devoid of ragadvesha. Devoid of agenda. Correct. And then effortless. Yeah, it's not that see the jiva's sankalpa, between the sankalpa and the fulfilling of that sankalpa, a lot of jnana karma is involved. Prayer, wanting this, effort, running around, doing this, doing that, getting this, These four kinds of actions are there on part of the jiva. I'm going to elaborate on what you have very beautifully summarized here, by talking about the differences between the Īśvara's sankalpa and jiva's sankalpa. There is no agenda, no ragadveshas, and no pressure, therefore, and no no planning, in the sense of wanting to fulfill some desire. So it's a spontaneous, objective, effortless sankalpa on part of the Īśvara and on part of Jiva to transform the Jagat into objects of consumption. It is a frenetic, pressure-filled pursuit based on wrong understanding. So therefore what? So therefore Isha sṛṣṭi is what? Mayatmika. Mayatmika means because of the power of Maya to project. All that there is just a pure projection, without unafflicted by the desire to gain joy, the desire to be comfortable. There is not a single whit of any kind of a pressure or ragadvesha in the sankalpa. Whereas the Jiva's sankalpa is a spotted sankalpa, dotted with ragadveshas, and then what? And then the ragadveshas create pressure to milk the Jagat and to transform the Jagat into an object of enjoyment, various objects of enjoyment, because the Jiva doesn't know I am the source of the enjoyment. So the Jiva's sankalpa is frenetic, pressure-filled, not spontaneous, not objective, and then therefore leading to sorrow. So manovrityatmikam. And then so in other words, Īśvara's sankalpa, Īśvara's Jagat is Vyāvahārikam sat, and then Jiva's Jagat is pratibhasikam sat. In fact, we can even say Īśvara's Jagat, from the standpoint of Īśvara, the Jagat is oneself alone. The Jagat is non-separate from that which is Paramarthika. But the Paramarthika Vastu is not Jagat. That's why we have to bring in Vyāvahārika. The Vyāvahārika otherwise has no meaning. Vyāvahārika means the objective reality. So the objective reality doesn't have any meaning when, if the Jiva is not involved in the picture. If the jiva is not in the picture, the objective reality has no meaning at all. So the objective subjective comes where? When the subjective fellow is there. Because there is pratibhasika satta, because there is the possibility of this distorted view, then we have to bring in that there is an objective view of the Jagat. Otherwise the Jagat is just an extension of the paramarthikam sat. The word Vyāvahārika comes because the jiva has the capacity of distorting the Jagat into I want this, I don't want this, raga dvesha based distortion. So therefore, to walk back, we have to tell the jiva, look at the Jagat as Vyāvahārikam, look at the Jagat as Īśvara. Īśvara is the Jagat. And then with the help of the knowledge, you are that Īśvara. So all there is Paramarthika alone. That's why in the Vedantic tradition, in the Pañcadaśī itself, we have we have seen in other situations, chapter 8 to a certain extent, chapter 10, etc. They and some other chapter 7, they all talk about the the school, which is called sṛṣṭi vāda. Sṛṣṭi vāda means that this was what is that? This was founded by one Prakāśānanda in the in the medieval times. I don't know exactly when. And so the seeds of that were already there in Vidyāraṇya's time. Although it was Vidyāranya was 2 centuries ahead of this, there were already seeds of their seeds of this sṛṣṭi vāda there in the time of Swami Vidyāranya. That's why he refers to it. And what is this sṛṣṭi vāda? It was there among the scholars, a prevalent opinion. Vāda means a prevalent opinion among the Vedantins, and which was later found, solidified by one Swami Prakāśānanda. And what is this sṛṣṭi vāda? So we talk about the 3 orders of reality, and the sṛṣṭi vadins, talk about only 2 orders of reality. There is the subjective reality, which is what? Pratibhasika, of course, and then Paramarthika only is there. The Pratibhasika is a distortion of Paramarthika. All that there is Brahman, and all that there is this Satchidanandam Brahma, this Satyam Jnanam Anantam Vastu, that consciousness alone is the Vastu. And then that distortion, whatever distortion I bring, if I have wrong thoughts about, myself, about the Jagat, about whatever, then it is Pratibhasika. But what about the Jagat? Then the question is there a Jagat? Can you really establish an objective Jagat? That is the question they ask. The sṛṣṭi vadins ask the question, a very pertinent question. They are correct, is there a Jagat outside of what you see? And you are constrained to say, no, there is no Jagat outside of the drishti. So now the drishti, when you see something, you are always looking at it from the standpoint, there is already a difference between you, subject-object difference is always there. And then so what you see is what? Pratibhasika. No, but I have resolved my raga dveshas, and now I am seeing the world as just a paramarthikam vastu, because I have atma jnanam. And then, what does the sṛṣṭi vadin say? Ayushyaman bhava. Yes, may you live long. Come to our camp. That is what we are also saying. If you have resolved the Jagat into Paramarthikam Vastu, that's all we are saying. There is no more Pratibhasika. And until you do that, the Paramarthika is acted upon to Pratibhasika. So to convert it into Pratibhasika. So there is no point in talking about any middle level Jagat. So that is swallowed up. So after Jnanam, the Vyāvahārika is swallowed up, really speaking. But then, the drishti sṛṣṭi vadins differ from us in this way. This is not an essential difference. It is an as though difference, because we bring in the Vyāvahārikam Jagat, because we already have problems with dissociation and disconnection. So therefore, what do we want to do? We want to make sure that we are grounded in an objective, way. I see the tree, you see the tree. Somebody from China, if they are brought here, they will also see the tree. So there is an objective Jagat that is established, because we need something to hold on to. Because otherwise we are already spinning in some kind of a subjectivity, and then for that person to be straight away introduced to Paramarthikam Vastu is not possible. So we talk about an objective Jagat, and here too Swami Vidyaranya very carefully talks about the objective Jagat in the example of the daughter and the wife. The wife is a subjective Jagat here, represents the subjective Jagat. The daughter represents an objective creation, devoid of agenda. And then where the wife is full of agenda in a patriarchal society, there are, many various agenda with regard to the newly married bride in a patriarchal society. So like this, the objective Jagat is there is a tug of war, as it were. Īśvara lets go of the rope and lets the jīva fall. That's what the whole thing is, and crawl back to Paramarthika. So the objective Jagat is established purposely here to be able to do two things: to be able to better understand this subjectivity, and number two, to be able to give up this subjectivity and see the Jagat as Īśvara. So you first Īśvaraize the Jagat, and then you understand yourself as that Īśvara, and then the Jagat is there, but it is what? It is vismriti prayah. It is prayah means mostly forgotten. Yeah, Saddarshanam, Ramana Maharshi's Saddarshanam says that. It is there, but it doesn't matter. To the Jnani, the Jagat doesn't matter. It is there. It is enjoyable, it is benign, it has no longer the power to afflict. So if the power of affliction is not there, then whatever doesn't afflict doesn't matter. So that is what we have to see. So that was a little, what should I say, a kind of a little bit of a scholarly foray into this the drishti sṛṣṭi vada, but that is not what is being subscribed to in this chapter, and that is not what is being subscribed to in the Arsha Vidya Parampara either. In the Arsha Vidya Parampara that we teach, Pujya Swamiji's lineage, we don't subscribe to that completely, even though that is the truth. The drishti sṛṣṭi vada, there is no reason to give up the Vyāvahārika until and unless it is given up by the person who gains the knowledge. It is not really given up, it's as though given up, it doesn't matter. But for now we need that middle level, because this whole chapter is based on this Vyāvahārikam Sat, establishing this Vyāvahārikam Sat, so that one can see this as a foothold. Like, when you have these mountain climbing things for children, inside some amusement park, there will be things to hold on to. You need something to hold on to evolve spiritually. And so, therefore, this thing is made very clear in verse number 19, that there are, as it were, two sṛṣṭis, one objective sṛṣṭi of Īśvara and the frenetic subjective sṛṣṭi of the jīva, because their sankalpas of looking at the sṛṣṭi and relating to the sṛṣṭi are very different. And then, and this is illustrated in verse number 20 with an example. Let us read. Īśa nirmita manyādau vastunyeka vidhe sthite. Īśa nirmita manyādau vastunyeka vidhe sthite. Bhoktridhi vritti nanatvat bhogo tadbhogo bahudeshyate bhoktridhi vritti nanatvat tadbhogo bahudeshyate. Meaning, Isha Nirmita. So he gives an example to illustrate that there are in fact two sankalpas acting upon the sṛṣṭi. Īśvara's sankalpa and pressureless sankalpa, and Jiva's pressure-filled sankalpa. So, so to speak, there are two sṛṣṭis. One sṛṣṭi is, projected through by the Jiva, completely through the mental distortions of the Jiva, and the other sṛṣṭi is just a benign, sṛṣṭi projected by the Īśvara without agenda. And this is illustrated by the example of a gem. Gem here means money. So gem means a precious gem. So like a precious stone. So Isha Nirmita Manyadav. For instance, he says, in things created by Īśvara, projected by Īśvara, such as a gem, for an example, Vastu Aneka Vidhe Sthite. Aneka Vidhe Vastuni Eka Vidhe Sthite. So in Vastuni, in objects of creation, such as gem, etc., Eka Vidhe Sthite. So in these gems, etc., which always remain the same. It's not that the diamond turns into the sapphire one day and then turns into emerald another day. Diamond is diamond alone. If you look at it today, it is diamond. Tomorrow it is diamond. Day after tomorrow also it is diamond. Eka vidhe sthite vastuni. Then, what happens to that eka vidhe sthite? So, with regard to things that are the same, what happens? There are more than one projection. There is more than one projection. Bahudha ishyate. Tad bhoga, from the standpoint of the bhoga of that vastu. So the vastu being the same, seen from the standpoint of the jiva's desire to do bhoga of the vastu, what happens? Bahudha ishyate. So ishyate means there are various projections upon this one gem. There are various ways the jivas relate to this one gem. How many gems are there? One gem, which is the same, which looks the same diamond, and there is some objective things about this gem that can be established. There is a certain weight, and then there is a certain class. They say that what is that? VVVS. VVVS1 means what? Very, very, very slight occlusion. Occlusion means some disturbance. It's the clarity level. So the most expensive diamond will be one which is categorized as VVVS1, meaning there is one or two occlusions, but very, 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 very slight. Then VVS1, slightly cheaper diamond. VS1, little more occlusions. So then this is what is the gradations. So those gradations are objectively made because the person sticks a magnifying glass into their eye, and the gemologist is able to see this. And all of them are able to come to an objective conclusion about the preciousness of this gem. Correct? So in this, it has a certain weight, and the weight of the gem is measured in carat, and not CARROT, KARAT, so in carats, and then these carats and occlusion make up this gem. Correct? Yeah. And then I'll take 2 more minutes today, and then so Isha Nirmita Manyadav Vastuni Eka Vidhe Sthite. Then what happens? Bahudha Ishyate. So in this one Vastu, there are many, many, many projections based on what? Bhoktra Dhivritti Nanatvat. Nanatvat means because of the manifoldness of what? Bhoktri, of the bhoktas, of the ones waiting to consume this gem, the ones who are affected by the gem, the ones that are wanting to see this gem or are already seeing the gem as, as an object of enjoyment, etc. Then bhoktri means the person who is the bhokta. Dhivritti. Dhivritti means mental modification thoughts. So the projected thoughts upon the gem are many. The gem is one and the same. So one gem and then many projections on that poor one Īśvara's gem, many jivic projections. Okay, more we shall see tomorrow. We can see that more in detail. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadāga Purnamevāvashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.